And just like that,
we're back.
back
Like we
once
never.
again.
Another rooted in another rooted in sports motherfucking Monday. Right,
Word,
what's going on,
word,
man?
word. Dynamic duo back, man. I checked y'all last week, man. Y'all was going, when y'all?
Man, you know how VJ get, man. You
Oh,
get VJ going. We start first. We start arguing, then we start segueing about two or three different uh, discussions, and I gotta lead us back. But it's always a fun time with VJ Vernon, man. So I guess I can't complain. But yeah, we went like a whole hour and a half extra
I was
overtime.
just
So I hope
gonna
you
say,
enjoyed it.
I know we go for a while, but I looked up, y'all was in hour 3. I was like, whoa, watch out now.
Yeah, I looked out. I said, man, I gotta get to bed. I had to hurry up and eat dinner. But nah, it was definitely a fun episode. Anytime you can have VJ Vernon on, man. By the way, check out VJ's on Sportsmanlike Conduct. He's also on the Odd Couple with Rob Parker, or he replaces Rob Parker. He's on that show sometimes as well on Fox. So yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Word.
So that was last episode, and I'm definitely looking forward to getting into some of the topics that we got to talk about today. Swan, what we got on the menu?
Well, for those that don't know, the deadline passed on Friday as far as for the guys that have been franchise tagged in the NFL and whether or not they can actually agree to some sort of long term extension. So we got a few guys that we want to just bring up and just maybe discuss why they didn't get those long term deals and why they are operating on a franchise tag for this upcoming season. And
Okay.
then, obviously, the NFL season is coming up right around. As a matter
It's
of fact, I
cracking
think
back.
training camp starting like week after next or something, right?
Well, here's the thing. This week, rookies will start. Rookies
Oh,
will
rookies.
report
Okay,
first.
yeah, rookies
So
reporting this week. Yeah,
yeah,
so
so you got some spanning as far as you have some. I have to check the teams, but you have some starting today and tomorrow. Once again, so you different teams that'll be starting their camp anywhere between today and obviously next week. So it's here. The NFL season is all but here.
so right on cue, we're gonna go ahead and get into um get into our next season previews. We're gonna preview each team. We're gonna go division by division. We're starting with the AFC East today. So we're gonna kind of break down each team and expectations for each team and where we see each team going for this 2022 NFL season, which is pretty much is beginning now, man. You know, time
Mhm.
flies, man. It seemed like Super Bowl was just yesterday and we were debuting, the Rooted in Sports Super Bowl Sunday, you know what I'm saying? And now here we are about to roll back into another season. And then obviously we're gonna get into a little NBA. We're gonna talk about DeAndre Ayton and him signing um the Phoenix Suns matching the offer that the Indiana Pacers originally extended to him. So we're gonna speak about that and what we think about it and where we actually see DeAndre Ayton, as far as centers go in the NBA. And news came out last week that the Utah Jazz are looking into trade offers for Donovan Mitchell. So we're just gonna quickly kind of discuss maybe good situations for him and where he could possibly fit in at. And I don't know if we got time, we might even talk about LeBron at the Drew League the other day. So we'll see what happens, man. We definitely got some interesting stuff coming up this episode, and definitely excited about it, man. You ready to go, Kenny?
Let's do it. Let's get it going.
All right, but first. Hey, no, you on time with it. I was just gonna say, let's get into the intro.
And he said, and just see, I had to
Word,
go ahead.
word, word.
I had to go ahead and see it through. What's up? What's going on, big Robert Swanson?
What's going on, Rob? What's going on, bro? Hopefully, you feeling all right today. Inside joke, but hopefully you feeling all right today, bro. You stay tuned in. And sorry. Let me do this. For y'all, Robert Swanson is my brother, and I want to give him a shout out. He got engaged last night. Popped the question to his girl. His girl said
Congrats.
yeah. So just wanted to give him a public shout out to my brother Rob and to my soon to be sister in law Jasmine. I love you guys and welcome to the family and congratulations.
Congratulations. A lot of marriage stuff. So
You know, getting old, man.
nah,
But look,
100%.
we ain't gonna prolong things. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna go ahead and just kind of jump right into things here as far as with these extensions go. And I know there were a few guys in particular that we may have been a little surprised about. You know, weren't able to work out extensions. I don't know. I guess I'll start with the one that surprised me the most. I know
What was that?
we came up with a few names. It's a couple tight ends we came up with, but I'm actually surprised that Mike Gesicki didn't get an extension from Miami. And I say that because I feel like he's a guy who over the past couple years has been kind of coming on and really just been kind of showing his worth with the team. You know what I'm saying? So I'm a little surprised by that one. But what do you think, and why would you say that he didn't get that extension that he was looking for?
Well, I think I obviously we can talk about uh, both tight ends. Mike Gesicki, we're focusing on him, but obviously Dalton Schultz as well.
Darn
Both
Schultz,
of
yeah.
both of them got hurt because they've been pretty productive. Mike Gesicki a little bit more his last 4 years in the National Football League, but they got hurt by the David Ngakoue contract. We all know David Ngakoue is he's had times where he has been productive, but for the most part he's been either a backup or he's been hurt. People forget.
Yeah, he's been talking about a tight end that's been nicked up. Like he's been hurt a lot.
First of all, and I will always say this: every tight end that was drafted in that 2018 draft class, was it 2017 or 2018? Him, Evan Ingram, OJ Howard. I mean,
OJ Howard.
All of them underwhelmed. I want to say it was 2018. All of them underwhelmed. None of them have kind of lived up to the billing to which they were drafted. So the Browns commit. I guess this was kind of like them putting all the chips on the table, saying that they believed in David Ngakoue. They gave him a big time contract. I want to say it was 56 with 28 million guaranteed. And
I think they let Austin Hooper walk too, right?
They did, and he's actually been nicked up since he's gotten there. He hasn't really, he was very productive in Atlanta, which is why they signed up in that big free agent deal. And since he's been in Cleveland, he hasn't been able to stay healthy. So after a while, they said, "Okay, we're just going to let you go, and we're going to finally commit to the guy that we signed you to start over."
Right.
That's yeah. And then so they released him, and then they obviously signed David Ngakoue for the big contract. But I say all that to say, David Ngakoue's contract had the same impact that Christian Kirk's contract had on the wide receiver market.
Right.
It completely reset it, and so now I think David Ngakoue even more because he's been even less productive as a tight end than Christian Kirk has been as a wide receiver. So you have these guys that, yeah, exactly. So you have these guys and Mike Gesicki and Dalton Schultz who are rising and slowly ascending to becoming like top 5 tight ends, and they're you don't really know where their value is as far as, or you're still trying to figure out like what their ceiling is. It's probably somewhere in the 9 to 10 million per year. But now you give David Ngakoue, a guy who hasn't been near, who's probably had 50% of their production over his last 2 years in the National Football League. And that just complicates things. And, obviously I can speak for my guy, Dalton Schultz in Dallas, man. Like, if David Ngakoue got paid that money, man, I think he's like, well, I think I deserve that and maybe even more.
And so, not to cut you off, let me ask you a question, just for my understanding and for some of the fans' understanding out there. So the franchise tag.
Okay.
So now, just so I'm sure, when you get franchised, you have to get paid out the average. Is it the average of like the top 5 players? Is it 5 or 10 players at your position?
It's like 5. It's top 5. So basically both of them are set to make. I think they signed their tenders. I know Dalton Schultz signed his. Let me see.
I think it was right under. I think it was like 10.8, 10.9,
10.9 million. Yeah. So I mean, they'll make a pretty penny, but obviously we don't want the 1 year lump sum. You want a long-term commitment from your team, especially if you've been. And I'll say this even more from Mike Gesicki. To me, he's gotten better every single year. I could say this,
and that was my point.
Yeah. And I could say that even outside of Dalton Schultz, like Mike Gesicki, since he's gotten into the league, has really kind of taken that step every single year. He's had times where he was hurt, so maybe he hasn't played as much, but overall, he's been a pretty productive guy, and you would like to think that his arrows only point upward. So why Miami didn't pay him? I mean, I guess maybe they're looking at future contracts that they have to pay. They just paid Tyreek Hill.
They did just give a lot of money. I was just going to say they did just give a lot of money to Tyreek Hill.
Yeah, I mean, they gave a lot of money to Tyreek Hill, and once again, it makes sense. But why would you not do everything in your power to retain a very valuable commodity? It's finding a good tight end in the league is hard.
It is, like, yeah. And I'll say this, like, you know, I think maybe initially, you know, if Gesicki or Dalton Schultz signed and they get a contract where they're getting about $10 million a year, you probably wouldn't bat an eye. You think, okay, you know, 4 for 44 or something. Okay, you know, it's about right for them. But because Ngoku got that, and Dalton Schultz as well as Mike Gesicki can, you know, put their resumes up over the past couple years, especially in Mike Gesicki's case, can put their resume up against Ngoku's and say, well, hey, if he got that, then obviously I have to be worth more than this 10 mil now. You know what I'm saying? If exactly. Yoku got, and I'm not quite sure what he signed for, but if Yoku got that, then obviously for those two guys, they have to be thinking, well, I have to be worth more than that. Because like you said, this is a guy who they paid, who they're now showing confidence in, a year after they were trying to replace him.
And he's been quiet. He actually, I want to say, he requested a trade about a good 1 or 2 times since he's been in Cleveland, and it just never happened. I mean, but he signed for $54 million. I was right on par. $54 million, $28 million guaranteed, which $11 million signing bonus. So
over how many years?
Over 4 years, he'll have an annual salary of $13 million per year. How I do not know, but
he can't stay on the field.
He can't stay on the field. Talented, physically talented guy.
Yeah, nobody's questioning that. But I think my biggest question for him is just him staying on the field.
Well, him staying on the field, and obviously him showing that he can really put it all together and be the elite player that Cleveland drafted him to be. So he still has a ways to go as far as fine-tuning his game. Definitely as a blocker. You know, we've seen a little bit of what he could do as a receiver and being a weapon in the red zone. But just to kind of look at the big picture, this happens all the time in many markets in the National Football League or in sports, period. I know we hate to see people pocket watching. We always say, why these players pocket watch? But the truth is you can only judge yourself off of the market that you're in. Like, go ahead. I'm sorry. No, I was just saying, like, it regardless of what position it is, if a guy signs a big contract, if another guy has a similar, if not better resume, why would he not? Why would he take anything less? You know, we saw that, you know, not to even jump on his situation, but Deshaun Watson signed that contract. That screwed the quarterback market up, because now you're going to have quarterback.
Absolutely.
It ruined it.
Lamar Jackson has to be sitting back.
I'm gonna tell you this. Every Pro Bowl quarterback with one playoff win is going to look at that contract and they're going to say, well, he got it. I can get it too. Because Deshaun Watson, even though he's talented, his resume is not that great to say that he can get $230 million fully guaranteed and other guys can't. Mm-hmm. So that's how the market works. And that's, unfortunately, that's what you're seeing unfolding with the 2 tight ends, Mike Gesicki and then Dalton Schultz.
And I was going to say with Mike Gesicki too, Miami, and I know we'll get into him a little more in depth later, but they did just hire a new coach, and I think it's Mike McDaniel from San Francisco, and he was their offensive coordinator. And I would think that maybe he comes over, and especially with the verdict kind of still being out on Tua, and once again we'll get to him, but they've loaded up. They got a slew of running backs in Miami now.
They do, they do.
And so maybe you thinking, you know, maybe he's looking to be more of a run heavy team, you know what I'm saying, a run oriented team. And Mike Gesicki, you know, kind of one of the knocks on him is that he's not necessarily the best blocking tight end. So I don't know, maybe that plays a part as well. I don't know. Maybe he's just not one of Mike McDaniel's guys, or Mike wants him to prove it. I don't know.
And it very could be, you know, I wouldn't say he's an absolute terrible blocker, but we have to remember, it's not like he's a How we doing? Getting some lag in here. It's not like he's like, he comes from, and I'm not even gonna clown my conference. He comes from the Pac-12 or something like that. Like, this is a Penn State guy. So he comes from a very physical blue collar program where there were times that he had to block. Is he probably a little bit more of a receiver? Yeah. So if anything, I can make the same argument that, okay, maybe, Mike McDaniel would want someone that's a little bit more fine tuned as a blocker. But I mean, if we want to talk about receiving wise, I can't honestly say that from an athletic standpoint that George Kittle is just leaps and bounds better than Mike Gesicki as an athlete, because Mike Gesicki is a very good athlete as a tight end. So, I don't know. It's so many different ways you can look at it. Maybe this is just a bump in the road, and they want to see what they can do later on and reassess his value, see what he does this year and how he fits in Mike McDaniel's scheme, and then we'll kind of go from there, and we'll see him get signed next year. But I mean, man, some that's just the unfortunate part about the franchise tag. That's why guys hate the franchise tag, because there's just no long-term commitment. And then, obviously looking at Dalton Schultz, Dallas better be careful.
I was just gonna say this might be another situation kind of similar to the Dak situation where they might be playing with fire, because I can totally see Dalton Schultz coming out and maybe getting off to a hot start to begin the season, especially with Michael Gallup possibly missing, the first couple weeks of the season. I can see Dalton Schultz really coming out and really, being motivated and having a Pro Bowl caliber season. I could see him possibly being 1,000-yard receiver for that team. And now,
well, let's look at it like this. He was third or fourth technically in Dallas's pecking order last year, and he had right below 900 yards and eight touchdowns.
Eight touchdowns, yeah,
and eight touchdowns. So now you get rid of Amari Cooper. Michael Gallup is going to miss probably the first 2 to 3, maybe 4 weeks on PUP. And I mean, you think he's not going to get more targets and more opportunities to show his worth? So, it's one of those things that you better be careful. You got to pay good players, especially ascending players. You have to pay them early, or the market will come back to bite you. Because if somebody comes and resets the market again next year, maybe a Mike Gesicki resets it before he does. Then you look at his production, and Dalton's going to be like, well, once again, they can always franchise him again. That's always a possibility. But
I'll bring up another name at tight end too, who I think after next year he'll be able to get the max off the rookie deal, and that's Hawkinson in Detroit.
Oh yeah. But
go ahead. I'm sorry.
I don't think Detroit will let it get to that point, because I think they're genuinely building around what Hawkinson can do. So I don't foresee that happening, but don't be, I don't know. I think he's going to get his money. I think you might see him get a big contract, especially if he stays healthy and has the season that we can expect out of him. Yeah, exactly. I can see him. He'd definitely get his money.
All right.
And then you have then you got 2 other guys. You got Jesse Bates, the safety for the Cincinnati Bengals, who had a subpar regular season, but he had a phenomenal playoff.
Heck of a playoff run.
Heck of a playoff run, and he really established himself as a very clutch and high performance safety in big moments. I mean, he was the one that caught that interception. He was the one that batted down. I think Von Bell caught it, but he batted down that deep pass that Patrick Mahomes threw to Tyreek Hill down the stretch when they got into overtime, and he batted it down, and Von Bell caught it. And Jesse Bates is good, really good, really really good safety.
So any guess or any explanation as to why they possibly couldn't have worked out a deal?
I think, I'll say this. They have the flexibility and they have the leverage to not do it. And I think it's because his price tag is going up. And do you remember we did the draft? And they just drafted a kid who I'm very high on, who a lot of NFL guys are high on, out of Michigan, named Dax Hill. And he's a hybrid. He's a hybrid free safety / slot corner. He really can play all over the secondary. Very intelligent guy. Quick twitch. Probably could possibly be even a better athlete than Jesse Bates. And he could easily slide in and be their free safety of the future. They drafted him the back end of the first round. So, I mean, they didn't draft him as just a project. He's going to fit into that rotation sooner rather than later. So that automatically gave them flexibility in case Jesse Bates or Von Bell at some point kind of wanted to change, kind of want to, I don't know. They wanted to give some pushback about their contract or what they were getting paid. So it just gave them
a little wiggle room.
It gave them wiggle room and it gave them leverage. So he's a good player. I think he's a good player.
I would think that he would take some of that momentum that he built off of that playoff run and maybe come into this season a little motivated. I don't know. Me personally, like, I'm the type of guy when I see teams kind of like the Cincinnati Bengals, and I see teams like that who make a surprise run and they got nothing but young talent around. Like, I'm the type of guy that, as a GM, I want to just go all in and keep that young core together. I like to do whatever I can to keep that young core together and come back. I don't want to cause any type of dissension on the team or any type of tension at all between me as a GM or me, in the upper brass of the organization and the players, So I that was one situation where I would have liked to have seen them go ahead and work out some sort of deal. And I also think that sends stuff like that, kind of negotiations like that, not necessarily going as planned. Sometimes that can send a sign to some of your younger guys, which you have a ton of that you depend on, like Jamar Chase and like Joe Burrow. I think it kind of sends a time when their time comes up of what can we expect,
Well, you have to be, when you have a talented roster, a young talented roster at that, you have to start to get frugal in certain places. Joe Burrow, at some point, they're probably going to sign Joe Burrow
as an importance, huh? Like a Joe Burrow or Jamar Chase. Those guys, at the end of the day, are more important than a Jesse Bates.
Those guys are going to, especially when looking at how the market's shaping up. Joe Burrow's they're probably going to pay Joe Burrow early. Don't be surprised if he gets paid next offseason, the beginning of next offseason. And Jamar Chase will get paid, maybe not fairly soon. Right, you want to pay guys quick, especially as fast as the market is kind of shooting up. So, I mean, they have a lot of young guys. Joe Mixon, I think, just recently signed a contract. They got a lot of money that they have to throw around at some point. T. Higgins will be coming up on the contract. Yep. He might get paid sooner rather than later because he was a 1,000-yard guy, and I think he had 900 yards as a rookie. So he's been a very productive guy since he's gotten there. So they have money to throw around. They have a lot of players to pay on the offensive side of the ball. They got to get frugal elsewhere. So they feel like we signed Dax Hill. If we feel like he can be at least just as good as Jesse Bates, why would we risk not moving on from Jesse Bates?
And now you got Dax Hill for 3 to 4 years on a rookie contract on a team for 5 years.
5 years,
if you pick up the option on a rookie contract, and you're, as a team, you have to feel like you're in an era where you can possibly compete for a Super Bowl. I don't see any reason why Cincinnati can't be considered as a Super Bowl contender, seeing how they just got there last year. And they pretty much bring back the same core another year wiser, And so if that'll be an ideal situation for them, if they can get Hill, if things kind of go south with Jesse Bates, if they can get Hill to come in and get great play out of him at a rookie salary.
Yeah,
great situation for him.
No, it's a great situation, and they're contenders again. We'll obviously jump and we'll talk a little bit more about them in the coming weeks, but they're 100% a contender. They just have to be smart about how they spend their money. And this was probably the one out of the 4 deals, and we'll talk about the 4th one in a minute. Out of the 4th failed extension, I think this was the one that I could kind of stomach a little bit more, just understanding the state of their franchise and where they're headed.
Well, speaking of the 4th one, Orlando Brown Jr. Tackle for the Kansas City Chiefs, he didn't agree either. What do you think? What is your thinking there, or why exactly you think that didn't quite happen for him?
he wanted to become the highest paid left tackle in NFL history.
Oh well, and there you have it.
He's a good player. They traded for him, and he's
from Baltimore, right? Am I right?
From Baltimore, and he was
yeah.
He was drafted out of Oklahoma. He was obviously his dad was in the National Football League. Pretty good left tackle, Orlando Brown Sr. But he was a right tackle initially for Baltimore, and then Ronnie Stanley gets hurt. He slides over to left. He has a Pro Bowl season at left tackle, and he tells the Ravens, and I mean, I guess this is in a very bullish way, like, I'm only playing left tackle from now on. And they're like, man, you were a Pro Bowler as a right tackle. We want to have both bookends, but he said his dad always envisioned him playing left tackle, so that's why they traded him Kansas City. And he did enough to have another Pro Bowl season. I wouldn't say he was across the board, just one of the top 2 or 3 left tackles in the league, but he was pretty damn good in his own right. And then probably an improvement of what they had in Eric Fisher over his last 2 or 3 years there. So good player.
I was just about to ask you that actually. Where exactly do you see Orlando Brown as far as left tackles in the league? Do you consider him a top 5 tackle?
No, I think he's top. I think he's a bottom of the top 10 guy that's still ascending. Because remember, the knock on him coming into the league was that he didn't have the athleticism to be a left tackle. He probably had one of the absolute worst combines in the history. And I hate, the combine can be misleading all the time, but you had to look at it and you was like, man, this dude is like, this is sloppy, right? It was just, he looked out of shape. He didn't look strong. He didn't look overtly explosive or athletic, but obviously he came in, he showed his worth as a right tackle. And then when he finally got the chance at left tackle, he did pretty good in his own right. But you saw him get beat a couple times last year. I remember even watching a Dallas game. Micah Parsons ate him up, something pretty nasty.
Well, I mean, Micah, Micah's special.
Micah's special, but here's the thing: to be a left tackle, you have to
you're expected to
you have to stymie guys like that, and that's what a Trent Williams
I was just gonna say
can do in his sleep.
Because for me, I mean, and I don't know, you may disagree. Is it fair to say Trent Williams is probably the premier left tackle in the league?
What's funny is now he is, but I'll be honest, and it's because I've seen him play in Washington, and he was always great. He was always pretty damn good, and if not great in Washington. Mm-hmm. But when he became what he is now, I was looking up last year, like, when the hell was he ever this goddamn good? Yeah. But maybe it's because he was in Washington, he was just buried there. But he's ascended to being the premier number 1 guy at that position. Maybe you can argue David Bakhtiari when he's healthy for Green Bay.
Okay.
So yeah. I think they're kind of 1A, 1B. And then obviously under that you have if Ronnie Stanley can stay healthy, he's pretty good. Mm-hmm. And then obviously we know Tyron Smith, who will never play a full season, hasn't played a full season in 6 years, but when he's on the field, he's one of the best, but he just will never stay healthy. So he's not. Orlando Brown Jr. is not in that tier right now. He still has some work to do. I think he's working on his physique, maybe shedding some pounds, maybe working on his explosion and his agility a little bit more. But he's young and he's ascending. So I think that they could probably take the blow and deal with another year to see how he does this year, because he could easily have an abysmal year this year, and they could be like, okay, we might want to move on from you, bro.
And FYI, not to get too far off topic, but speaking of Trent Williams, man, he did an episode of I Am Athlete, and for those who haven't seen it, just go to YouTube, look up the episode of I Am Athlete with Trent Williams on it, and as a grown man, it may very well bring you to tears for those that don't know about the things he had going on, as far as he had like a little brain tumor or whatnot, and he really, really gets in depth about some of what quite honestly was a little bit of malpractice on some of the doctors' parts that were he were dealing with, and some of the team doctors there in Washington, and how he ultimately found out, and how he was near death, and how he was able to kind of overcome that. But just as an aside, man, I Am Athlete Trent Williams was on an episode. Go check that out, man. It genuinely, as an adult, it might, as a grown man, it really might bring you to tears when you hear the story, man. But yeah, shout out to Trent Williams. Shout out to these guys, man. Hopefully they can go out and play their tails off and come back next season and get the money that they rightfully deserve, because we all about seeing guys getting paid. Let's see, little bro, where do you guys see OBJ going this season? It seems like he might miss about half the season. But
I don't know. You might sometimes you hear sometimes we hear I've heard people talk about Green Bay, but we don't know. I honestly, at this point, it's just a waiting game, because that injury, him tearing his ACL that late in the year,
in the Super Bowl.
In the Super Bowl,
the last game of the season, So
yeah, it's we
and I think, and if I'm not mistaken, if I'm not mistaken, he's torn it in that leg before. I don't know if it was that leg or he's had a similar injury in the same leg or something like that before.
Possibly.
So, but for me, I think honestly, I think he just needs to go back to the Rams. I think he just needs to go back to LA. They can afford that. They signed Allen Robinson in the offseason, so they can kind of afford to let him take as much time as he needs to heal up. And I just think, he's got acclimated into that offense. You've seen toward the end of the year, he really started to step his game up, and he really started to be an integral piece of that team on the offensive side. And so I think the same thing can happen with them next year. Maybe he can come in late in the year and possibly be the piece that gets them to back-to-back titles or gets them back to a Super Bowl. Who knows? But I think the best situation for him, in my opinion, is to go back to the Rams. But with that being said, once again, training camp's about to start. Rookies are reporting this week. And so we thought we'd go ahead and get into some NFL team previews and expectations and outlooks for this season. And we thought we'd start with the AFC East. Obviously, you got, the Buffalo Bills, New England Patriots, Miami Dolphins, New York Jets. I don't know where you want to start first. You want to start at the top of the division?
I guess we might as well start at the top. And just looking at some of the things that Buffalo did. Obviously they're the talk of the town. They're the favorites, if I'm not mistaken. They're the quote unquote, they're the favorites to win the Super Bowl this year. They have the highest odds of any team
in the NFL.
In the NFL, the Buffalo Bills are, if I'm not mistaken,
you
can't argue, because they're right there. They're a team that it's within reach. Everybody's touting Josh Allen as the NFL's best quarterback now. He's close. But I don't know if I can just verbatim say that. But obviously, we've seen what he did in the playoffs last year, and that was impressive. But just looking at
he basically did everything a quarterback can do to win a game.
He did everything a quarterback can do to win a game. Exactly. So he showed he definitely pushed the ceiling up, and you're starting to see him come into his own and be that transcendent guy that Buffalo saw him being when they drafted him out of Wyoming. But they're right there. They made a lot of additions. I think they had a very solid, productive offseason. They addressed a lot of positions of need. Now, they lost some guys, but looking at some of the additions that they had, I mean, obviously, we know they added Von Miller on that big contract.
Yep. They got OJ Howard to replace Knox at tight end, which we'll see. Another one of those guys you were talking about in that 2018 draft of tight ends that hasn't quite reached the potential that we thought. But, hey, who knows? Maybe a change of scenery can help that.
Well, they still have Knox.
Oh, so I thought Knox signed.
No, they still.
Okay.
So he's going to come in and be a backup, and maybe they'll be able to do some two tight end things, which is I think that's what they're kind of aiming towards. I think you want to see them. They're going to run the football a lot more. So they'll probably try to do a lot more out of two tight end sets, and then obviously only feature two wide receivers and Gabriel and Stephon Diggs. So I mean that could be an interesting package for him. But looking at other additions, obviously they had Von Miller on that big contract. That's pure veteran Super Bowl DNA. That's what that is. Now they signed up for a big ass contract, like $120 million.
And I think, and what is he, about 33 now?
33, 34. He's getting up there, and he's clearly, if not past his prime, he's at the very last leg tail end. So to me, he's almost like a designated pass rusher at this point in his career, because you don't want to beat up his body and have him play every single down. But they added Shaq Lawson in free agency, which I think is Shaq Lawson. Did he start in Buffalo? No, he started. Yeah, he started in Buffalo. He did,
and went to Tampa and went back.
Oh no, went to Miami.
I'm sorry, Miami went back.
Yeah, went to Miami, but then he bounced around a few other places. But Shaq Lawson, Jordan Phillips, they added Daquan Jones, Tim Settle. They added obviously a lot of pieces on the defensive line.
I'm gonna tell you. In addition that they had that I liked, actually in the draft, them getting James Cook out of Georgia, who happens to be Dalvin Cook's brother, and I'm a Dalvin Cook fan. Mm-hmm. But no, I really like that. I think he could possibly be an answer for them at a spot, at running back, that may have been kind of a weak spot for him on offense. So I'm excited to see what he can do for them.
True, and I think he'll fall into that rotation. To me, I think they're still committed to Singletary, but for them, they have to. It's not about are the running backs good enough. Is offensively or from a play calling standpoint, are they going to put emphasis on really building that running game that I think that they haven't done in the past? Now, what they did was they go out and they get Roger Saffold, who's pretty good, who's a really good run blocker
from Tennessee, correct?
From Tennessee, and before that he played for the Rams. Really, really good kid. I've been following him since he came into the NFL. I think he came out of Indiana, if I'm not mistaken. Really good, really good. He was a tackle, and then he slid in and guard, and he's had a pretty productive career so far since he's been at guard. But man, and then speaking about the draft, they added the kid Kaiir Elam. Kaiir Elam from Florida. I love Florida corners. All these guys come in pro ready, and he's going to be a really good piece to place across from Tre'Davious White whenever he gets healthy, right? Because he ruptured his ACL, and we don't know when he's going to come back. He's still out indefinitely, but that gives them good bookends at both corner spots. And then everybody else will just kind of fall in place around that. And
we're still talking about a defense that was talking about the defense that was number one in the league last year. So
yeah, and they're only, this is a team that you can tell for them this is Super Bowl or bust. Like they didn't go into this offseason like we'll just add a couple. They're like, no, we're gonna add guys that are gonna help us at significant positions of need, and guys that can not only start but help us be better than what we were before. So I loved all the additions. It's crazy because they don't really need much. I think I look at another key add that I think is going to pay immediate dividends is Jamison Crowder. They released Cole Beasley, who, me, I'm a big Cole Beasley fan. I think he's been
so am I.
Yeah,
Measly Beasley, as I call him.
Beasley, yeah. He'll put somebody on a motherfucking mixtape. His running skills are so good. But they added a guy that's maybe a tad bit smaller, but it's going to give you similar value. Jamison Crowder from the Jets, JMO is what they call him. But he's going to slide in. He's going to get him some real value there. I think he'll fit in seamlessly. And then they added Tavon Austin. That's surprising. I don't know. He's gonna be so they got a guy that could be a return.
Former Dallas Cowboy, I know that.
He never played for us.
He did, didn't he?
No, he did. I'm being facetious.
No, don't do me like that. Matter of fact, he had a pretty solid season.
No, he didn't. He made like 4 plays. He made like 4 plays. But but let's take his wide receiver and flexibility like. Let's look at his value as a returner. If they just ask him to do that's going to do wonders for them. He can do that. Let him kick return, let him punt return. That's where his value lies.
And then what they went 11-6 last year. I think they're clearly the favorite, not just in this division, but I think it's from my perspective. I think it's fair to say that they're probably the AFC favorite. And as you just said, they're already the early betting favorite to win the Super Bowl. So yeah, for the Buffalo Bills, it's really Super Bowl or bust for them. And I don't know what they went 11-6 last year. I see them improving on that. I could see them maybe 13-4, somewhere like that, 13-4, 14-3, something like that, improving on that record from last year. And I don't know. For me, yeah, I probably put them in the Super Bowl, for me. But it's still early. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Let's see. You wanna go to New England?
Let's go to New England.
All right, New England. They went 10-7 last year. Very respectable 10-7. Let me see here. I was looking at them this a little earlier today, and I didn't realize that they signed Malcolm Butler back.
They did.
I
brought him
did not,
home.
and surprising too, considering the circumstances in which he left. That was really surprising to me. But yeah, they obviously they lost J.C. Jackson in the offseason to the Chargers, so they brought in Malcolm Butler, a guy who's familiar with. I was really surprised by that.
Well, yeah, no, because to me, one thing I learned about New England guys, players are coaches. They always come home. Like people forget, Jamie Collins went back. But Jamie Collins didn't have, he got traded for a reason. He got too high he got very high on his britches. Remember, he had kind of ascended to being one of the better linebackers in the league. He wanted more money. His ego probably got a little big, and Bill got him up out of there. And he came back. He actually came back humbled.
I think he went to Detroit, didn't he?
He went to Detroit.
Was it with Matt Patricia?
No, as a matter of fact, wait, let's stop. He went to the Browns first.
Okay.
Then he failed. He got cut. And then he went back to New England, played hella good. Then he went to Detroit, failed, and then he went back to New England. So, guys always make their way back. So Malcolm Butler, but once again, Malcolm Butler had some productive years in Tennessee, so it wasn't like he was a complete bust. But it would only make sense for him to go somewhere where he's familiar with.
I just thought, it was just surprising to me, especially, seeing how things went after that Super Bowl. Well, I think they lost to Philly in that Super Bowl, and all of a sudden he was just a DNP. And I just thought, and I think, and if I'm not mistaken, he made the Pro Bowl that season, but he was a DNP in that Super Bowl. And I just thought, after the way things went, you think, bridges are burned, but hey, he decided to sign back. They also got Devontae Parker via trade. They signed Jabril Peppers.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Because I was gonna. So let me ask you this. I've always thought, and people might think I'm crazy for this. I've always kind of seen Jabril Peppers, believe it or not, I see him more as a linebacker than I do a safety.
No, okay, no. He's like I forgot what they call the position exactly, but he's something of like a rover. But he really was able to fine-tune his skills some of those years in New York. Playing in that system. I want to say that defensive coordinator, I always forget his name, but he's in not Oakland. He's in Las Vegas now. He's their defensive coordinator. But he's like that. Jabril Peppers is like a hybrid safety corner / linebacker. He gives you a lot of value because he's versatile, but you can really put him I think he's an ideal to be like your slot guy. But he can fill so many different roles. He's perfect for New England. He's perfect for Bill Belichick because Bill Belichick's going to use him to the best. I'll tell you this. Do not be surprised if you see Jabril Peppers have a Malcolm Jenkins like Pro Bowl surge. Like you saw Michael Jenkins really become a Pro Bowler later on in his career when he was in Philly. Like I think Jabril Peppers could do pretty much some of the same things. Neither one of them were ever great coverage guys, right? So Jabril Peppers is not a super great coverage guy, but he's really gotten better in those efforts, got better in zone, got better in man. But his hitting ability, his ability to fill holes and plug and play as a nickel, and teams play more nickel now. So it's not like, you're taking guys off the field. Like teams are pretty much living nickel defense now because it's a passing league. So Jabril Peppers has a lot of value, and Bill Belichick is going to use the hell out of him.
And then they didn't make too much noise in the draft. I know that in the first round they went O-line and got Cole Strange out of UT. Everybody was like,
Yeah.
But yeah, what do you see for this team? Like I said, they were 10-7 last year. Obviously, a lot of what happens for them this year depends on Mac Jones and his continual progression. Another team in this division that had, I think they were fourth. No, they were second in scoring defense, fourth in team defense, second in scoring defense. So obviously, Bill Belichick teams they're going to defend. But what's your outlook on the Patriots for this season?
Well, for me, I have a lot of questions about. I think they can be around the same. They maybe I would say 9 games is more where you might see them at.
Mm-hmm.
They have the talent, but they lost a lot of veteran leadership. People may not realize this, but losing Kyle Van Noy is big for them.
Mm-hmm.
Losing Dante Hightower is huge for them. And as you know, what's his name? Why am I forgetting his name? Uh, Devin McCourty just retired.
Right.
Yeah, so you're losing guys that have been mainstays on your defense for the better part of 10 years or 10 years plus,
Yeah.
right? Because
Seeing you through some Super Bowl seasons.
yeah, and Devin, when they had that year where a lot of guys opted out for COVID, Dante Hightower was one of them, and I don't even
Mm-hmm.
think they had Kyle Van Noy at that point, or maybe I forget, maybe he had opted out as well. But Devin McCourty stayed. He was the guy that was kind of getting a lot of those younger guys up to speed, But they don't have many of the old regiment anymore. I mean, you don't have a Patrick Chung anymore. You don't have a Dante Hightower. You don't have a Jamie Collins.
Yeah.
The only person you have is a Matthew Judon, who maybe you're gonna lean on him and have him take on more of a leadership role. And then they just picked up Mac Wilson, linebacker
Okay.
who played for the Browns just recently, and he's looking like he's gonna have a prominent role in their linebacking core and on their defense. And then also remember they lost Chase Winovich, they lost J.C. Jackson. J.C. Jackson's gone. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
that's more so what scares me is it was I understood the formula with those guys in leadership positions, but now that you don't have that, now you have a young team that's a little bit devoid of talent. And the
Yeah.
offensive side of the ball, it has question marks too, right? So first of all, let me say this. About time they fucking traded N'Keal Harry. I don't know why the hell he was still there.
And unfortunately, they traded him to my Bears. Like that was. I
But you know,
mean that.
but you know something?
But it may be I'll tell you what though. It
That's
may
a
be an opportunity for him because
that's a
if
if
there's a
there's
team who's probably more void of a main receiver of a wide receiver,
look,
you know what I'm saying? It
if
might
Nick
be outside of Darnell Mooney. I love Mooney, but outside
look,
of Mooney, I mean, it's question
look,
marks
if
in our depth
N'Keal,
chart.
I'll say this: if N'Keal Harry can't find a way to get playing time and be productive there, I want to say I don't want to say
He's
he's
done.
done.
He's done.
He might be done in the league. Like
He's done
you're
because
yeah.
Darnell Mooney is really the only for sure in the Bears wide receiving depth chart right now. Every other spot on that, every other wide receiver, 2, 3, all they're up for grabs.
Your number twos right now are, and we'll talk about them another day. But y'all number twos right now are Darnell Mooney and Cole Kmet. So hopefully he finds value there. But they finally got rid of him. Now I do like Devontae Parker trade.
I do. So I was gonna ask you this: Do you think he can be a true number one for them? Because he's had his moments in Miami. He's had his moments in Miami. Do you think he can be a
Yeah.
true number one for them?
Well, I think he can be. I think he can be a high end number two and possibly a 1B if they acquire a guy in the future. Because see, they drafted this kid they drafted this kid out of Baylor, Tyquan Thornton.
Tyquan Thornton.
And I don't know. I'll be honest. I don't know. He seems more of a speedster guy. Like this Tyquan, that pick, it struck me as like a Al Davis Oakland Raiders pick. Like we don't like it's nothing that this kid does that screams special, but he's just fast, so we're gonna pick him. So I don't know, kind of how that's gonna work out for him. But I'll say this: Devontae Parker will give them some legitimacy at wide receiver that they haven't had, that they definitely haven't had in the last 2 years. So Devontae Parker will go there and he'll be the alpha in that group. You know, he's
And they
still
I think they still have Hunter Henry as well, who I also love as a tight end. So
yeah, they got Hunter Henry. They got Jonu Smith. They got
Jonnu
both those
Smith. Mm-hmm.
both those tight
I
ends
love both of those guys.
who are both very capable receivers. People forget Jonu Smith was an ascending receiving tight end in Tennessee before he signed with New England. So there's that. But they still got Nelson Aguilar there. They still got Kendrick Bourne. Jacoby Myers has been getting better every single year. And yeah, I mean, we're gonna have to see what it looks like. And this is the scariest part. They don't have Josh McDaniels anymore. And Josh McDaniels could, I mean, I hate to say it like this, he could put sugar on shit and make you think it was chocolate.
I feel like in their receiving core, I feel like they have, now that we mentioned some of those names, I feel like they have a bunch of capable 2s and 3s, but I just wonder, and I would put Devontae Parker in that position, or I put the pressure on him. I just wonder who can really be that guy for them, that number one guy when 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7, when they need to keep the chains moving, who can be that guy that they look to?
Well, the cool thing is they resigned James White.
Oh, come on, man!
Right, so they brought back
James White, man.
Right. Well, so that is big. They resigned James White, so he's going to be big.
He's like the ultimate. He's like the ultimate like third down receiving back, bro. Like,
he is.
I mean, just steady hands. He's been in clutch plays, clutch moments in Super Bowls, clutch catches. He's just a real steady, consistent guy. Not a superstar. Not an every down back, but
he's what we call a fan favorite.
He is.
He's a fan favorite. So, but once again, if it's anybody in that group that can do it, it's Devontae Parker. He had a year in 2019 where I really thought he was going to start. His arrow was trending upwards, but obviously, maybe some instability at the quarterback position has kind of held him back, and it's just been a lot of chaos there in Miami from an offensive standpoint since he's been there. So, hopefully he can kind of find his footing and get back on track. He is a little older, so I want to say Devontae Parker is about 30, 31. So the clock is ticking. So hopefully if he wants to put his name in that hat as one of the upper tier guys or one of the better receivers in the league, I think he better take advantage of this opportunity. So yeah, New England's a team around the same wing, maybe 9 wins max. But
real quick, do you see Mac Jones in his second season really taking that progression and really putting himself not in that top tier, but maybe making himself possibly like a tier 2 quarterback, maybe?
If reports of his work ethic are true, I think so. They say they've had to, like, even last year they had to tell him to kind of calm down because I think basically like telling him to, like, you're a rookie, like you should be enjoying this ride as well. But he took it so serious, and you have to admire that in a young guy. So if those reports are real and he really has that addiction and that commitment to the game, he's only going to get better. And I saw a lot of great things out of him last year. He was exactly what I kind of figured he would be. He would start out being a game manager, but over the course of the season, you really start to see him take more risks and make bigger throws. And he's perfect for that team. But once again, now I have to see what is Mac Jones going to look like without Josh McDaniels. They're talking about Matt Patricia being the play caller. What the fuck?
Hey, man, Bill Belichick is another guy that thinks he can put, sugar on shit and put it off as chocolate. You know what I'm saying? Bill Belichick, he had a huge ego. So from a football standpoint, there's not much that Bill Belichick don't think he can do and make work. So
we're gonna put a guy that's a defensive minded guy. I mean, maybe it works and he looks like a genius, but we're gonna take a guy that's his entire time in the league, or most of the time in the league, he's been known as a defensive first guy. And now we're gonna say, okay, now you're an offensive play caller. So it's going to be interesting to watch. My eyes are going to be glued. I want to watch the situation, how it unfolds. But Yeah, that's New England. They're in a, I wouldn't say they're in a good place, but I would say they're in a bad place. They're kind of in limbo. Um,
Mm-hmm.
they kind of stayed pat, but they once again they lost that veteran leadership and they lost Josh McDaniels, who's been there for the better. Josh McDaniels has been there for a long time. He's
Yeah.
been a part of their system. I mean, we talk about Bill Belichick, but Josh McDaniels has played a large part in Tom Brady's success as well. And they actually have had a very good working. I know you've seen them argue at times, but they had a very good working relationship where they understood each other, and he understood how to work with Tom Brady. So that can't be understated. So that's probably their biggest loss of the offseason. So we'll see going into training camp how does Mac Jones take the next step in year two, and then obviously what's going to happen with some of these young draft picks. Specifically, I have to see what this kid I have to see what Bill saw. What did Bill see where he drafted Tyquan Thornton over a slew of other young wide receivers that went in round 2 and round 3. So I'm interested to watch.
And I'm with you. I see probably another 10-7 or 9-8 season. Partly because they're in a division with the Buffalo Bills and with another team who I see is going to be just as competitive, be right in that same range in the Miami Dolphins. Well, we know they got the new head coach and Mike McDaniel from San Francisco. The big splash move for them this offseason was obviously making the move to get Tyreek Hill. Um, Now they're pairing him, and they really got speed all over the field now because now you're pairing him with Jalen Waddle, and then they also picked up. Now I was looking and correct me if I'm wrong here, but they picked up Raheem Mostert in the offseason, Sonny Michel, Chase Edmonds, and if I'm not mistaken, they still have Myles Gaskin, correct?
Ooh.
So,
Yeah, they should still have him. But remember, he's more of a hybrid guy.
but I mean, I just see it. I'm looking at and I know Mike McDaniel come from a run heavy offense in San Francisco, another offense where they really just be because of the culture and the style that they have there. They pretty much just plug in any next running back up, and all of those guys seem to be successful in game. But I mean, I don't know. I think you're looking at a real log jam here at the running back position. But beyond that, they did sign Melvin Ingram. Um, Obviously, I think the success of this team and probably one of the quarterbacks in all the NFL with the most pressure on them. I think a lot of their success relies on Tua Tagovailoa, um, and his progression this year, and whether he can be consistent and just take the next step. FYI, they did also sign Teddy Bridgewater, so don't be surprised if he gets off to a slow start. Teddy Bridgewater has shown the ability to be able to game manage,
Yeah.
and this is a solid enough team where with a solid game manager they can make a playoff run. So don't be surprised if Tua comes in the first 4 or 5 weeks, he gets off to a slow start. Don't be surprised if you see a quick plug here. But what do you think about these Miami Dolphins this year?
Well, hopefully VJ's not watching this because he'll get pretty upset. I think they have the potential to be the biggest bust this season. Um, and it's not from a talent standpoint. They have the talent, but you don't just get rid of a coach like Brian Flores who changed the culture of
Yeah.
Miami. He literally turned that into a winning culture, and it's funny because we're hearing reports of maybe some of this dysfunction in the locker room, or he wasn't him and Tua Tagovailoa didn't have the greatest working relationship,
I think that was
which is
pretty obvious. I
which is
think you can
which is
tell Tua
understandable.
just wasn't his guy.
Tua wasn't his guy. I've heard I've heard around and whispers that he had preferred Justin Herbert in that draft. And they
For
pushed
obvious
him and say
reasons.
for obvious freaking reasons we know now. But yeah, I mean it has the potential. You have a lot of question marks. You have Tua, who is a very unshaky. He has times where where he can be accurate, but very shaky play. And we're questioning if he's even a starter in this league. And then you have Mike McDaniel, who I have my questions about. I think he only got the job because when you're comparing Mike McDaniel and why am I forgetting his name? Doing that, Kellen Moore, who was in the running for that job as well. And maybe they felt like Mike McDaniel was a little bit more mature. I know he's been around for a while. He's definitely been in the league. He's been in the Shanahan and he's been in the Shanahan how can I say it, umbrella for quite a while. He was there in Washington with them at a lower level.
And you also wonder too, could it be a case you want to beware of another case like, and I'm gonna be personal here.
Say it.
Go to my Bears. Another case like Matt Nagy, where you get an offensive guy from a true offensive mastermind in Andy Reid, and you think, okay, well, this guy's gonna come in and it's gonna be the same thing's gonna happen here, and it doesn't quite happen.
And
You get a guy from Kyle Shanahan under Kyle Shanahan, and you got to beware of Mike McDaniel going there, and then you actually realizing, you know what, Kyle Shanahan was the mastermind behind this thing, and Mike McDaniel just reaped benefits.
Well, nobody. I mean, I would hope nobody. We know that he contributed to that offense, but he was the offensive coordinator in title only.
Mm-hmm.
Kyle Shanahan called that. That was his offense.
Mm-hmm.
He made the big calls. I'm not saying he never let Mike McDaniel call anything, but no, it's going to take some hard convincing for somebody to tell me that Kyle Shanahan didn't call that offense. And I'm always wary of coaches that don't hold that responsibility. Especially if you're to me, as if you're an assistant coach and you're ascending to being a head coach, what type of responsibilities did you hold when you were an assistant coach? And to me, when you haven't had to I'm not saying he didn't have to manage anything, because I'm sure he had a slew of responsibilities, but to not have that responsibility of play calling is very huge as an offensive coach. And almost every transcendent head coach / offensive play caller that we've seen has held that responsibility at some point. So that's my big question mark about Mike McDaniel. He's young. He seems very playful. I think he'll get along with guys in the locker room. I think he's only about 30. Was he about 34, 35?
Mm-hmm.
He's not an old guy at all. So I think he's a new taste, but how is that going to blend in? It may be cute. And all that shit is cute at first. But when you lose 4 or 5 games in a row,
from a team on a team where, expectations are high now, you know what I'm saying? You go out and make this huge splash move, to get one of the premier wide receivers in the game. Expectations are going to go through the roof, especially for a team who finished 9-8 last year, who won, I believe, 8 of their last 9. I think they won 8 of their last 9 games last year. Expectations are going to go through the roof.
This is a winning over the last 2 years. Miami, even if they haven't had the playoff, appearances and success, this is a team they've been a winning team. And Brian Flores was able to do that. So
I think they were 10-6 the year before, and then they started out really slow, and then won 8 of 9 to finish up 9-8 on the season last year.
Exactly. So that is what he's going to have to come in and try to replace, and that's just from a head coach's standpoint. And we're questioning what is his, how much of what they were doing in San Francisco was actually him. So he could get that headset and things could be shaky, and the play calling could be iffy. It happens, especially a young offensive coordinator that has never been challenged and put in those type of positions, right? So there's that, and then we have questions about Tua. What is, I said this last week, we were talking about it, me and VJ. I thought this was the best destination. I would have loved this for Baker Mayfield. I think
Miami.
100%. I think Baker Mayfield goes here. Maybe you have questions.
I don't dislike him going to Carolina. FYI, though.
I like Miami better for him.
Okay.
Because I believe he comes in and he's already better than Tua. So
okay.
So that just shows you kind of how down I am on Tua. I don't see anything special about his game. And it took years. I say this all the time. He had me fooled. He had all of us fooled.
Yeah, we've seen him there, and the accuracy. But in hindsight, you got four? You got 4 first-round receivers.
4 first-round receivers. I mean, and all those guys were there. I think John Mechie, who was a second-rounder this year, second and third rounder for Houston. I
Who
think he
probably
was
would have
there.
been a first rounder, I think, if he hadn't got hurt. So I
Possibly,
mean,
possibly he was productive. He's
yeah.
productive,
So
but so that just shows you what he had around him. So a lot of question marks from a quarterback standpoint. But outside of that, the roster is nice. You like the Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle together. It's funny because Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill was his comp coming out of college.
mm-hmm.
So now you pair these guys together. They get Teron Armstead, who's going to give them a boost at left tackle. That's going to allow them to move the other kid to right tackle. Austin Jackson, who they drafted out of USC. They got Cedric Wilson from Dallas, who I've been
Dallas.
big on since he
He made
came
some
out of.
really big. He made some really big plays, some big catches last year. Some really timely
Yeah.
catches.
And the funny thing about Cedric Wilson was he actually was always this good. He just needed to stay healthy, and he needed to get the snaps and the opportunities to show this. But he broke records at Boise State. Like he was that guy at Boise State. So he was a 6th round draft pick, probably because people weren't super impressed with his body or his athleticism. But I mean, he's just a guy that can play all across the board. He's a really good possession guy. That's where he's going to be for them. They need a possession guy that's going to move the chains on 3rd down, and someone that's going to be that they can really move around our system. But once again, I'm trying to figure out how it's all going to fit, because what is Mike McDaniel? What is his offensive philosophy going to be?
Yeah,
if it's going to be run
what
first,
type of what's his culture? Yeah,
what's your culture? Because I mean, you have Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. I mean, those guys don't fit in seamlessly with the type of offense that Kyle Shanahan was running.
Yeah.
Kyle Shanahan had bigger body.
Physical. Deebo Samuels is a physical. If you want to call him a receiver, you know what I'm saying. But he's a physical football player.
Exactly.
Even
So
Brandon Ayuk is a little bit of a bigger guy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, Brandon Ayuk is about 6 foot 210, 215 himself. And some of the same things that you see Deebo Samuel do, they've done with Brandon Ayuk, jet sweeps and running the ball. So, you have to wonder how he's going to use that with some of the guys that he has now. Maybe he just wants to make it a track meet. So, but yeah, a lot of running backs added. They re-signed Emmanuel Ogbah, which is smart because he's ascending. It took him a while, but he's actually ascending and becoming one of the better. I wouldn't say top tier, but he's an upper tier edge rusher in the league, and he's really putting his name up there. And they signed Connor Williams from Dallas. This is actually surprising turn of events. He was a guard for Dallas, and he had times where he looked good, but he had times where he was very underwhelming, not very powerful. So he was getting ragdolled a couple times. But he's in line. It's funny because he was a Connor Williams, quick background. He was a tackle. He was a highly touted left tackle prospect out of Texas. And I remember he was being hyped up, top 10, top 15 prospect. But obviously, once draft time came, people looked at his measurables and they said, this guy's probably not going to be a left tackle. So Dallas drafted him. They drafted him in the 2nd round and they kicked him in the guard. It's the first time he played guard. I don't think he played guard at college level. So he played guard for Dallas, was solid, but underwhelming at times. And for Miami, he's in line to be their starting center.
Oh, really?
So, yeah. And apparently he's looked really good in the offseason for them, but he's in line to be their starting center. I know he took a few snaps in practice for Dallas last year, but it didn't look too pretty. But obviously he's been working on it. So he may find his home at center and possibly become a much better player. So that's an interesting turn of events. But as far as Miami as a whole, to not go on too long, I think it could potentially get ugly.
Do you think they at least get back to 9-8, or do you see a sub 500 season?
I see a sub 500 season. I see about 6 to 7 wins from this team.
Ooh, I don't know. I think I don't think they necessarily get any better. A lot of that is because I do think there's a team in New England who I kind of put in that same tier as them, and then I think Buffalo's obviously the class of this division, but I don't think they get any worse. I see them right around at 9-8 or 9-8, 8-9, somewhere right around 500, and then probably missing the playoffs. I guess I'm with you. I don't see them making the playoffs. I see them kind of missing the playoffs. So yeah, I see them right around there.
Exactly.
And last but not least in the AFC East, a team that I think you can argue might have had the
The
best
best off the
NFL
best.
draft of any team in the New York Jets. I mean, obviously with the number 4 pick, they got Ahmad Sauce Gardner from Cincinnati. Came back with a number 10 pick, got Garrett Wilson, wide receiver out of Ohio State. And then they had 3 first-round picks. With their last first-round pick, they got Jermaine Johnson, defensive end out of Florida State. They got this kid, Brees Hall, who everybody's raving about, who everybody seems to believe is going to come right in, feel right in, and possibly take over that starting running back position. They signed CJ Uzama, tight end. They signed DJ Reed from Seattle. They did lose Marcus May, who I think is a really, really, really good safety, but they did lose him in the offseason. Obviously, they're another team who's dependent upon the progression of their young quarterback, Zach Wilson. What do you see from this team? They were 4-13 last year. Can you see them making some improvements under Robert Saleh?
So I can, and to tell you the truth, as much as it pains me to say, it hurts me to say this, I like this team. I felt like last season I would catch games with them, and I'll be honest, I was a little down on them because when they drafted Zach Wilson over Justin Fields, I still feel like Justin Fields is the better prospect of the young 2 quarterbacks, but over the course of the year, just seeing the culture that's building, I'm starting to like it. They're a big ball of clay, but there's something to work with.
Mm-hmm.
And what I like about them versus what we saw out of Miami, what Miami did is Miami kind of shifted everything. And imagine, a chessboard, you just pick it up and just dump all the pieces, and now you're putting all the pieces back on. All right. Well, what the Jets did is they have their foundation, and they're just continuing to build off of what they started last year. A big addition that they're getting back, and this shouldn't be understated, Carl Lawson, who's probably going to be a double-digit sack guy last year, ruptured his Achilles, I want to say, in the offseason, and he was having a phenomenal offseason. He was looking like he was really going to take that next step in his career. He started out in Cincinnati. He was drafted in Cincinnati out of Auburn a few years back. So that was a big loss for them defensively. But crazy enough, they still were able to figure it out and get things done and still be competitive and still be, getting some slugfest defensively. Yeah. But looking at the team overall, I can see them improving to about 6 or 7 wins. I mean, once again, don't even be surprised if they're even able to do better than that with some of these additions that they have. Obviously, the big question would be Zach Wilson. Where is he going to be in his progression? But you have to take pressure off of him. And I think that they're doing their best to do that. CJ Uzama, we saw what he did for Joe Burrow, being a safety blanket, being a locker room presence as a veteran and as a leader. But I think he's going to be very solid for them, and they needed that intermediate option. They lost Jamison Crowder, but they gained Garrett Wilson. I'm excited to see how they're going to use him in that offense. Garrett Wilson is an athletic freak. Probably not as versatile as Chris Olave or some of the other guys, but I mean, the guy's a phenomenal athlete, and there's a reason why he was drafted that high. So he could easily come in and and be their top guy. If not for when they drafted a kid last year out of Ole Miss, who was Elijah Moore, who was looking pretty damn good in his own right. Brees Hall, you mentioned Brees Hall out of Iowa State. He was the consensus number 1 running back in this draft.
Yeah, I know a lot of analysts are really big on him. They really feel like he's going to step right in and feel right into that starting running back role and really help Zach Wilson out.
When you watch Brees Hall's tape at Iowa State, it was okay. Whoever gets him, he's ready to start and play now. He's a plug and play starting running back. And they still have the kid they drafted last year out of North Carolina. I want to say Michael Carter. Yeah. And so you got a nice little 1-2 punch. And it's perfect because Michael Carter is more of a shifty, speedy back. So you pair him with a guy that's more of a bruiser in Brees Hall. And I think you get a nice 1-2 punch, and you're able to take some pressure off of a young Zach Wilson and really help him slow things down and help him develop his game the right way. If you guys didn't know it, quarterbacks need running games, especially early on in their career. So
Absolutely.
don't so Zach Wilson's no different. You mentioned Ahmad Sauce Gardner.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm excited to see what it's going to look like for him. I think he's going to get flagged a whole hell of a lot early in his career. He's very grabby.
Uh-oh.
He's grabby, but he's athletic. He's long. It's just about him learning what he can and can't get away with. But he's gonna have to, he's going, especially once you going up against some of the guys that you're going in that, even in that division, and a Stephon Diggs or a Tyreek Hill, like guys that are shifty, and they're gonna make you hold on for dear life. So don't be surprised if you see Ahmad Sauce Gardner struggle early with penalties, but I think his athleticism and his upside will kind of balance things out and help him weather that storm. But the kid I'm most excited for them is Jermaine Johnson. I like Jermaine Johnson.
I did too. Coming out of Florida State, I did.
Really talented. He was actually, remember, I think we talked about this. He was on Last Chance U. He was one of the Last Chance U kids, but went to Florida State. I think went to Georgia first, but he went to Florida State and really made a name for himself. And I compared him coming out of the draft. I compared him to Jason Pierre-Paul. Similar skill set, similar size, 6'5", long-limbed, can play the run as well as the pass. But he may be even more fine-tuned at this stage of his career than Jason Pierre-Paul was when he was coming out of UCF. I want to say it was UCF or Central USF. I think it was USF when he was coming out. But Jermaine Johnson's going to be really good for him. Oh, and they added Braxton Berrios, who I think will be a really solid 3 and 4, third or fourth receiver for them. So I mean, they did good, man. I can't complain with what they've done. They added Laken Tomlinson, who'll be a guard for them. He'll help open up some holes. They added DJ Reed. He's a tall corner
from Seattle.
Him and Sauce will form a pretty good 1-2. They obviously wanted some length in the secondary. And another thing I would say is big is what's going to happen with Micah Becton. He kind of had a
tackle.
Tackle, yeah. Really talented guy. What's up? Always look forward to seeing y'all's podcast. Thanks for tuning in.
Thank you. Appreciate the love, bro.
Yeah. Appreciate it. He always comes on and shows some love, man. But
for real.
I don't know what the hell is going to happen with Micah Becton. He said he's committed to proving people wrong. But they're literally what's happening. I have to remember what the guy's name is, but they're both their tackles are competing for who's going to start at left tackle, and whoever loses the job is going to be at right tackle. Dangerous game to play, in my opinion, because you want to get a guy prepared to play for a side, and it isn't like right tackle is just the easiest thing in the world. Like it's a whole different ball game. It's more powerful guys on that side, but if Micah Becton can figure it out, I don't know if you remember his rookie year, he was phenomenal.
Yeah.
So that'll be the biggest questions facing them. Robert Saleh, he seems like he's building a good culture there.
I liked him when they hired him. He just seems like a good, upstanding. He kind of reminds me of Brian Flores. Just one of those good, upstanding guys whose philosophy and whose culture is just contagious. You know what I'm saying? So
little bit more charismatic and fun than Brian Flores. Right? Yeah, Brian Flores is like somebody's daddy.
He's a serious dude for real.
Yeah, he's a serious dude.
But no, I'm with you though, man. I really do see them. I definitely see them improving on the 4-13 record. I could see them 6-7, max maybe even 8 wins. I see them being really, really competitive, man. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So I mean,
Tiffany watching.
Hopefully, bachelor party was Letty. Oh yeah, I was in Cabo, by the way, guys. I almost didn't make it to today because my flight kept it got delayed like once or twice. Coming back home. So, but yeah, I enjoyed Cabo, my cousin bachelor party. So yeah, that's what Kyle's talking about. So
he was living his life.
Man, I was trying. These allergies was killing me. But yeah. So that's what I think is. I think the AFC East is gonna be fun to watch. Buffalo's gonna be good.
Okay, so I was gonna say
What?
real quick. I know we both got Buffalo winning the division.
You want to know the order?
How does it? Yeah. How do you got it? How do you got it in order?
I believe it'll stay the same.
So Buffalo, New England, Miami, the Jets.
Yeah, Buffalo, New England, and I think you may see. There's a potential chance that Miami could easily finish as the fourth. It's very easy. It's very likely, man. Like I mean, I wouldn't say it's very likely. It's very possible.
It wouldn't surprise you at all.
No, not at all, because they lost. We cannot understate how big it is to lose as much as they've lost in this offseason, especially from a head coaching standpoint. Brian Flores wasn't just a regular Tom, Dick, and Harry head coach. So I mean, and Mike McDaniel hasn't done anything in his career to prove that he's going to come in and be better. So I mean, I heard somebody try to make this comparison. They said, "Oh, it's like when Tony Dungy was in Tampa Bay and they brought in John Gruden." But I'm like, okay, but Mike McDaniel hasn't even. Man, it's crazy.
Come on,
I said, well, Mike McDaniel hasn't even done what John Gruden was doing, and he wasn't even a head coach, and he wasn't even the de facto offensive play caller. So it's once again, it's too many question marks for me. At least the Jets they have a lot of things that they can improve on, but not as many question marks. So, yeah, Miami is a sleeper though, bro. If Tua plays decent, they can compete for a playoff spot.
That's a huge if. Okay, that if should have been in caps too.
Watch this. If Tua plays well, they're a playoff team.
Playoff contender. I can't even say team because
they're a playoff contender.
I still think Buffalo wins this division. I still think New England's going to battle for a spot in the AFC South. Tennessee or the Colts, whichever one of them, one's going to win a division, the other one's going to battle for a spot. And then the AFC West is just loaded.
They might put in 3 teams.
They might get 3 teams.
They have the potential to get in 3 teams, right? It's that competitive. So
if Miami, I think if they max out, if Tua plays great, they still competing for a wild card spot.
Yeah, they're not going to be unless you feel like they're going to be Buffalo. Nah. And watch this. And surely we don't think that Mike McDaniel in year 1 as a head coach is gonna just go into Foxborough and just run mental circles around Bill Belichick. Hopefully we don't think that.
Indeed.
So it's just a lot of question marks, but I'm excited to see what's gonna happen. I like the moves that each team has made, but I think we can go ahead and be clear. Buffalo is still there's nobody's gonna knock them off. New England, they lost a lot. So maybe if they didn't, I would have felt like they could have challenged Buffalo. We saw them beat Buffalo last year in that one game where they only threw like 5 passes.
And the wind was all crazy and everything. Yeah.
where Mike, it was Micah Hyde and what's their 2 safeties? Micah Hyde and
at the press game conference.
They said, how do you guys feel that they only do 5 passes and they still won? They said, well, don't disrespect us like that.
Right.
They was like, come on, man. We appreciate you guys. Don't disrespect us like that. You know. But I will tell you this. I will tell you fucking this. They went ahead and they remembered that. And the next 2 times they played them jokers, they put it on them. And you have to have nothing but respect for it. I love to see teams that were terrible rise up and really become consistently good. I love that. That's the funnest thing for me to watch in the National Football League, to see a bad team turn around and become a good one. I watched the Rams do it. I charted it. I saw the pieces coming together. I'm not even talking about the Super Bowl. I'm even talking about when they drafted Aaron Donald, when not too many people know who Aaron Donald was. But I love seeing good teams turn good. So it's going to be fun to see with some of these teams. Obviously in the AFC East, specifically the Jets. I'm liking to see what pieces they're going to put together, and maybe it comes to fruition under Robert Saleh, and maybe it may take another coach to come in with those same foundational pieces and take them to the next level. We don't know, but I'm just excited to see what's going to happen.
Where near it is in the AFC East, we pretty much see. I agree. We pretty much see the same order. You know, Buffalo finished from first, New England, Miami, and the Jets, man. So yeah, that's it, man. We're gonna see what happens, man, and definitely looking forward to the season. We're going to come right back with this segment next week. We ain't decided what division we're going to do yet, but we're going to come right back with this segment next week, guys.
100%. So,
However, oh, go ahead. Sorry.
but no, I mean, I'm excited to, I know we get NFL is here, but we still have a little bit of lagging NBA news, coming through. Um, Deandre Ayton, um, we thought he was gone. I know I thought he was gone. I didn't think he was gonna, stay in Phoenix.
Yeah.
But he gets that big contract offer because he was a restricted free agent. Am I right?
Yeah, and he
And he
he ended up getting a deal from the Pacers. The Pacers offered him 4 years for 133, and Phoenix ended up matching, so he is going to stay in Phoenix.
so this is okay. So this is my biggest question. Let's take it back from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Why was it ever? And I'm sure you'll know better than me. And um, why was it ever a possibility that he was going to leave? In your opinion? Because we've seen his growth as a
Mm-hmm.
player, but why did it get to the point to where, man, DeAndre Ayton's gone, or maybe he wanted to leave? Like, what do you think played into that?
Well, it's a few reasons. One of the things, and we were talking about this a little bit on Saturday for a little time that we were on. We kind of brought this up, and a couple of guys made some great points. The league is really starting to transition, or has transitioned from the prototypical big. And right now, DeAndre Ayton is more of a prototypical big. He can step out, he can hit the 15 to 18 footer, the 20 footer, but he's more of a back to the basket big. You know what I'm saying? He's not a big with 3-point range, and he's not necessarily a big who can defend the pick and roll well. He's not terrible, but he's not an extremely mobile guy laterally in defending the pick and roll. So that's one reason. Another reason I also think is because there were rumblings last year about he and Monty Williams' relationship. Initially, when Monty Williams got there, and you've even heard DeAndre Ayton say this, he felt like Monty Williams was part of the reason why his game has continued to grow and his value in this league has continued to grow.
Mhm.
But after the finals and then heading into the season last year, after the season they went to the finals, lost to Milwaukee, and then heading into the season last year, there was just starting to be rumblings about his and Monty Williams' relationship. There was a game or two where he kind of benched DeAndre Ayton down the stretch, and
In key
DeAndre Ayton,
moments.
hmm and DeAndre Ayton didn't take too kind of that. And I also think that DeAndre Ayton would like to see himself play more of a prominent role in Phoenix offense. So you add those things together, and that's part of the reason why Phoenix was a bit reluctant. And I believe that DeAndre Ayton, and I'm happy for him because I think in essence he kind of bet on himself. I believe that DeAndre Ayton thought that he was worth probably more than what Phoenix was willing to offer.
Mhm.
So he didn't accept their initial offer. He did, allow himself to get out there on the market. Obviously, he was a restricted free agent, so Phoenix was going to have that option to
To
match if they
match.
chose to. But he goes out there, and what do you know? The Pacers look at him and they say, "Hey, we think you are everything that you think you are. So we're going to offer you, the max that we can offer you, which was 4 years, 133." And then Phoenix was in a situation where, hey, what do we do? You know what I'm saying? We're a year removed from the finals. You know what I'm saying? We consider ourselves a championship contender with DeAndre Ayton. So what do we
Facts.
do? And ultimately they ended up having to match that deal and re-sign him. So it was a win for DeAndre Ayton. Now going forward, I really wonder, can DeAndre Ayton and Monty Williams begin to kind of
Repair their
mend their
relationship.
relationship? Yeah, and B, if maybe this season we will start to see DeAndre Ayton become a little more of a focal point in their offense. And here's another thing too. What he averaged, he was getting 17 and 10 last year. Exactly. 17 points, 10 rebounds last year.
Which is really good
It is.
for a big man. And that was in That was his what, fourth year?
Yeah, that was his fourth season. So, and then this is the question, and I posed this question on Saturday too. Um, when we're looking at the center position, how many how many centers in the league can we just vehemently say are better than DeAndre Ayton?
Maybe
Because,
four.
and I think, and
Maybe
and
four.
and for me, I think that also depends on how you view a few guys. Obviously, Embiid, Joker, better. Okay.
Anthony Davis, is he a center?
And that depends on how you view him. Anthony Davis, in my eyes, Anthony Davis, he does play a lot of center for that team,
But he's a true power
but
forward.
he's a true power forward, and he has made it more than clear that he doesn't like playing the five. He likes to play the four because he doesn't necessarily want to
Like the physicality.
bang and be physical like that. It's just for the Lakers, they seem to work best when he's at the five, but he prefers to play the four. Another guy is Karl Anthony Towns. What do you consider him?
Now he's a four.
I was just going to say I consider him a four, and I think Minnesota would like to see him play that role as well, which is obviously why they overvalue Rudy Gobert. But they went out there and gave up all those players and all those picks to get him. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, who do we? I maybe three. You know what I'm saying? And in my eyes, centers,
let me ask you this: where do you view a guy like a Clint Capella?
I think
maybe you can't say he's. I don't know. I like Clint Capella, and I think
I do too.
He's a very strong game. He's a true center, rim runner, rim protector. He's very good at what he does.
I agree. I like Clint Capella as well. I would still take DeAndre Ayton over him. Right. However, what I will say is that for the skill set that Clint Capella has, he may be more valuable to certain teams.
Right. And I think he's a bit tougher.
Yeah. Call me crazy, and I'm sure people are going to, call me crazy for saying this. I would take Clint Capella over Rudy Gobert. And hear me out though. Here's why I say that though. Rudy Gobert, obviously, he's a multiple-time defensive player of the year. You know what I'm saying? He's going to get you a double-double, whatever, however. But there are times, and we even seen this in this past season's playoffs against Dallas, there are times where Rudy Gobert is unplayable.
Yeah.
Because he is strictly a rim protector. He cannot get out there. Yeah, they'll eat him up in that pick and roll. You seen Dallas. They got some bigs. They play small, and they got some bigs that can shoot, and namely in Max Kleber. Max Kleber had the one game where he went 8 for 8 from the three. Yeah. And literally in the fourth quarters and down the stretch, they literally made Rudy Gobert unplayable. Whereas on the flip side, you got a guy in Capella who is a rim runner. You know what I'm saying? He can block some shots, but he can play that pick and roll a lot better. He's a big who can kind of move his feet a little bit and get out there and contest on threes and, at least show enough and on that pick and roll, at least show enough so that guard can get back and recover, and then he can recover himself.
Right. He's not gonna become a victim.
Exactly. Right. Rudy Gobert isn't sleight of foot like that. So I guess for me, there's more, although Rudy Gobert is better at the actual shot blocking, I think that there's more versatility with a Clint Capella. But with that being said, dependent upon the team and the situation, I would probably take DeAndre Ayton in front of a Clint Capella. But that leaves me, the only three guys, three centers that I could think of that I probably take over DeAndre Ayton. And once again, I consider Anthony Davis a power forward, and I consider Karl Anthony Towns a power forward. Let me preface this by saying that. Yeah. But with that being said, obviously Embiid, obviously the Joker. And although he's a smaller center, I would probably take Bam Adebayo at this point in his career over DeAndre Ayton at the center position.
More scoring upside.
But with that being said, once again, I consider AD and Karl Anthony Towns power forwards.
Yeah.
That would make DeAndre Ayton a top five center in this league.
And look, and anybody, obviously, I'm sure there were a lot of teams that were gonna offer him the money. But goddamn, I mean, if it was any team that was gonna give him the max, it was Indiana. Because if it's one thing we know about Rick Carlisle, he gonna play the hell out of some big men.
Oh yeah, and
He
Rick
gonna play
Carlisle's
at
a championship winning coach.
yeah, but he loves traditional bigs.
He does. He does. And that wouldn't have been a bad fit there
No,
either
it wasn't.
because they got a few. Granted, they just got off of Malcolm Brogdon, but they got Tyrese Halliburton, who I am big on. They still got Buddy Hield there. They got the kid they took last year, and Chris
He
Duarte, who
he
toward the end of the year really came on toward the end of the year.
he probably. I mean, I hate to say it, but he probably has an opportunity to be a number 2 option there.
I could see it.
Yeah,
I could see him progressing into that.
yeah.
They still, although he's been in every trade rumor known to man, as of right now, they do still have Miles Turner on their roster.
He said every trade rumor known to man.
Man, every
Every
week,
every package.
every week, Miles Turner is in a trade package.
Every 3-team trade with Indiana involved.
Miles Turner's involved, but for right now, he's still on a team. And even he's a guy who, if I'm not mistaken, he was toward the league. I think he might have led the league in blocks last year, or he was top 2 or 3 in blocks per game last year when he was playing. And then I don't know if anybody's been watching the summer league, but they took this kid Ben Mathurin out of Arizona, and he was lighting. The kid can shoot the thread off the ball. Kid was lighting it up. He made the they didn't got extravagant with the summer league now. And they gave the summer league champions rings and they got all NBA teams for the summer league. But for what it's worth, he did make the all summer league NBA team. For what it's worth.
I mean, I guess I get it. I guess I get it.
For what it's worth. But I mean, I watched him play twice, and in both games, Ben Mathurin had over 20 points. In both games, he hit 4 or 5 threes. Like he looks like he could be the real deal. So. I mean, if hypothetically, if you did add DeAndre Ayton into that mix on that team, they have a really nice nucleus. But with that being said, Phoenix decided to match, and they're gonna give it another go and try to get this championship.
So, could you see his offensive role expanding? And if so, and if so, how do they do that? And who do they take whose hands do they take the ball out of? Who's getting less looks?
Okay, so Phoenix offensively, they're gonna lean on Devin Booker.
Of course.
That Devin Booker is gonna be their guy. He's gonna be their number 1 scoring option. Mm-hmm. I think for them in a perfect world, Chris Paul isn't selfish. Chris Paul, if it was up to Chris Paul, he could average. Chris Paul would be perfectly comfortable averaging 8 or 9 points a game and getting 11 or 12 assists a game.
He's a true point guard.
He is. And, I ain't gonna go that drastic, but maybe Chris Paul is somewhere around, 12, 13 points a game and, 10, 11 assists a game. And maybe they can get a few more touches on the block for DeAndre Ayton. And he can kind of up his average maybe from 17 a game to maybe that 20-21 a game, along with Devin Booker's 27 a game or whatever he's gonna get. And who knows, that might be the key to taking this Phoenix team to the next level. Now, I guess the reason why I like DeAndre Ayton is because I feel like every year he's shown improvement in his game.
He has. I was about to say that, yeah.
Every year his game has matured. Every year he's adding to his game offensively. Like I said, now he can step out and hit that 15 or 18 or 20 footer. So for me, it's like, who knows? This is a kid who's showing that he has the ability to improve. Who knows? Maybe in another year or two, he stretches his game out beyond that 3-point line, and then look out. You know what I'm saying? So I don't dislike them. Matching that deal.
And I think I'm glad this happened because I even looked at, last year, I guess the year before last now, when they lost to the Milwaukee Bucks in the NBA Finals. And the one thing I could say is I'm so excited for their future with DeAndre Ayton and Devin Booker and to see how those players kind of move to the forefront. Now, you've seen, I think last year you saw Devin Booker kind of take a step forward, especially from a consistency standpoint, take on more of a prominent leadership role. DeAndre Ayton kind of had some bumps in the road. Obviously, you said he was kind of going back and forth with Monty Williams. And he had some times where this is my thing. I think DeAndre Ayton just needs to, and this is where he shows his youth. He looks like a grown 28, 29, 30-year-old man, but obviously he's only about 23, 24.
I believe. Yeah, he's about 23, I believe.
Right, 23. So it's really, really young kid. But that's where I think you kind of see where I don't want to say immaturity, but he still needs to toughen up just a little bit. As far as his mentality and just kind of handling the ups and downs and the ebbs and flows of the game. But he's growing into a very fine player. His post game, it seems like it expands.
He'll be 24 this week. His birthday is actually this week on the 23rd.
Right, so 4 years.
He'll be turning 24, yeah.
He'll be turning 24. So it's still young, still probably, I think we could probably argue this is a guy that maybe hasn't even entered his prime yet. But
I would say that.
Yeah. But we've seen his game, especially his post game, expand so much that he's really learning to unlock the physical gifts and really how to put everything together. So I think I feel like Phoenix will be cheating themselves if they were to give up on him this quick and not see him realize his potential. Because I think DeAndre Ayton, and maybe in about 2 to 3 years, if he continues to ascend and work on his game, I'm not going to say he's going to be them. But he could be a 20. He could be a 20.
I could see him being a perennial 20, 21, and 10 guy.
Yeah.
Perennial.
So we already see saying he's top 5. So what's keeping him from putting himself into conversations with a cat before he became a true power forward, or maybe somewhere along the lines are close to where Joker and Embiid. Obviously, they're otherworldly, but they were human.
I don't know. I'm not sure if he has
not that
ceiling.
Maybe
I think he can be in that tier right beneath him.
I'll say this: maybe where they were about 3 years ago, where they were they were really good all-stars. Now they're just otherworldly superstars who can do
both of those guys are easily top 10, arguably top 5 players probably top 5 players in the league.
Yeah.
Joker and Embiid probably.
Yeah, all right. So but the arrow's trending upward, so I'm excited to see how they use him. Hopefully they continue to add to his palette, and then hopefully they can expand the relationship. But I don't know. What do you think Phoenix has now that they get him back? That was the biggest question mark for me, honestly, for them going into next season, them not having DeAndre Ayton. But now that they have them, now that they re-signed him and they brought him back, I think that kind of keeps them on par where they're at. I still think that they'll be a top three team in the West. Top 4 team in the West. And contend.
Yeah. I don't know. I look at them and I envision them as they're probably going to be the same next year, barring some unforeseen move that we don't know about yet. So I guess for me, and once again, like you said, they're going to be a top 3 or 4 team in the West. Obviously, they didn't have enough to win the championship year before last. And then ultimately they came up short against Dallas last year. And it seems as if they're going to bring that same team back. So I guess for me, I don't know, even with them bringing DeAndre Ayton back, I don't know how they improve. And I don't know. I just don't see them coming out the West.
I got it. Just Chris Paul stay healthy.
If Chris Paul stays healthy, I'm still not sure that they can come out the West,
Yeah, I know.
Because, obviously, Golden State is going to be right there. Memphis is going to be right there.
The Clippers will be right there.
The Clippers, a healthy Clippers team, I think that Golden State is the favorite to come out the West next season. A healthy Clippers team is probably the only team that I think can truly challenge them. Dallas is going to be right there. Dallas who beat them last year.
And you see what Dallas did this offseason, adding size, and I believe that loss was. I said this. I don't know if I think we talked about this a little bit. That was a very good loss for Dallas. They needed to lose like that.
To Golden State,
you needed to taste it.
Mm-hmm.
You needed to taste to see how close it was, and I think you'll see a more determined, more prepared Luka coming into the season, which is already scary because he's already a astronomical player, without coming in the season in shape. But seeing the hype that they've added, and they added it was a Christian Wood.
Christian Wood, yeah, from Houston.
And then now they signed
pretty
it.
Pretty solid big who can stretch the floor. He can shoot the three. Solid big.
Yeah, and they add JaVale McGee, right?
And
so
a rim protector who they needed.
Who they needed. So I mean, the West is going to be tough. So, but
and then with Luka Doncic, speaking of him and how he seems to sometimes not be in shape, at the start of the season. Well, and a lot of times I'll be a little skeptical of this, but in this situation, it might prove to be some good. Luka's playing for Slovenia right now during the summer, and I think he's going to play for the FIBA championship. But he's been playing for the Slovenian team during the summer, so he's continuing to play basketball and continuing to stay in that shape. So get him. Hopefully you can get him a couple weeks of rest before training camp and things start. But that would seem to be it would seem to be more viable that he's coming into camp in shape, and then you can just take off from there. Because Luka's talk about top 5 players in the league. Luka, right there.
Yeah.
He's right there.
Right. So I
and
agree.
Anyone who argues against that is just a pure hater.
Yeah.
Luka's special. All caps.
Special with no athleticism, right?
No, all caps, just special. Dude's just special.
Right. So I agree. So I'm glad that the Suns was able to retain Deandre Ayton and show that they believe in them, and hopefully it can keep them in contention. And we'll see what they do. I guess we'll once we get a little deeper into to the NBA offseason and get closer, then we'll start to observe and see what additions they added and what are some things that they did. But DeAndre Ayton was big. That was the big question mark, that if they would have lost him, I'd have been like, I don't see them being contenders. Especially
they immediately they would, to me, they lose DeAndre Ayton, they move to the bottom of the pack in the Western Conference playoff teams. They're
like
6
a 7
to 10 or something.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Because to me, you have too many teams in the West that have, even if their bigs aren't elite, they have a presence and they're at least very good, right? Because Portland has Nurkic.
Nurkic, yeah. If Nurkic can stay healthy, he's a very talented big.
Exactly. I mean,
Golden State, even in Golden State, you know what I'm saying? James Wiseman played a couple games in the summer league. He looked pretty good.
He did look pretty good.
Who knows? Who knows how he could come back? You know what I'm saying? So.
Right. And as much as we don't want to talk about it, the Lakers still have AD when healthy, is still a phenomenal player in his own right.
Absolutely.
And
Phoenix isn't. It's not like Phoenix is. Phoenix got a lot of solid, players, a lot of solid role players. But if you take DeAndre Ayton away from that team, now you put more pressure on Chris Paul to really be a scorer again. Which we've seen even in the playoffs, the type of wear and tear that took on him, because he'd have games where he was just phenomenal, and then that next game he got 6 points. You know what I'm saying? We've seen obviously Devin Booker, he's gonna get his, but beyond that, you take away DeAndre Ayton, and now who becomes their third scorer for him? And all of a sudden they don't look to be as deep or as talented of a team in a conference where. I mean, we already talked about the top 4 teams. Minnesota got talent all up and down their roster.
Minnesota just said, you know what? Let's take this shit back to the 90s.
Man,
let's take this shit back to the 90s and the early 2000s. Let's have two dominant bigs. Rudy Gobert, you rim protect, and Cat, we'll go ahead and let you go to work at the 4.
But they even beyond. I mean, obviously you got Cat, Anthony Edwards, who's ascending, who's one of the top young talents in this league. D'Angelo Russell's no scrub. I mean, they just got talent all up and down the roster. You know what I'm saying? I mean, they're coming. I like New Orleans team. New Orleans is coming. I think they had to match that deal. If they wanted to continue to stay relevant and stay a step above some of those teams, they had to match this deal.
I believe they had that conversation.
Yeah,
I believe they were like, all right, we got to do it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So so pretty good on that. But I did want to ask you, obviously we got a little bit of time left. I did want to ask you about Donovan Mitchell, because we talked about last week, me and VJ talked about it. And I thought Donovan Mitchell was going to stay put. Reports was it kind of simmered down to him wanting to trade, but then they kind of
It
resurfaced
picked
like,
back
oh no,
up, yeah.
like he
Now
still
all of a
want,
sudden Utah is looking for a trade.
yeah. So what is I mean, first I would have thought he would have stayed obviously with Rudy Gobert leaving. They just could never get their relationship together.
Especially after that whole COVID thing, man.
Oh yeah, oh
You know,
yeah, yeah.
it was it's hard to get over that. And I don't blame Donovan Mitchell, man. It's the way Rudy Gobert just didn't take the whole COVID situation seriously,
Seriously,
only to find out that he has it, and ultimately he's been spreading it. I
right,
feel some type of way about that too.
right. So I
But
mean,
but with Donovan Mitchell, I mean, possible landing spots. I think he should go to the Eastern Conference. Obviously, the big team that's been mentioned a lot is the Knicks.
Miami. Oh, okay,
And Miami afterward, and actually, those were the two teams that I was gonna say offhand. Obviously the Knicks. I mean, who doesn't want to go to the Knicks? Who doesn't want to play in the Garden? You know, is one of the best basketball cities in the world. Obviously, the NBA is better when the Knicks are good. You know, the NBA prospers when the Knicks are good.
right.
As far as a trade deal, I mean, I'm not sure. Maybe the Knicks can, you know, RJ Barrett, maybe Mitchell Robinson,
And I'm gonna tell you
and
this.
maybe a couple first rounders or something. Maybe
Maybe
Emmanuel quickly and a couple
maybe that
first rounders.
maybe that's a blessing because I was about to ask you that. Obviously they just signed Jalen Brunson to that big outrageous
Hmm.
contract. But if you pair, obviously if you get a Donovan Mitchell, Utah is going to ask for RJ Barrett. And to me,
Oh yeah.
I guess from the Knicks side, I'm like, damn, you let this kid go. But then on RJ Barrett's, he may be just leaving a situation that is a little, it's a little bumpy. We
Hmm.
don't know what's going over there in New York, and maybe he gets a chance to really go somewhere and spread his wings in Utah, where there's really nobody standing in his way from being the guy. And
Yep.
I'm actually becoming a very big RJ Barrett fan. His game is evolving very quickly on both ends of the ball. So
And yeah,
yeah,
he's another guy who's showing some improvement. I would still like to see him develop a little bit more of a consistent jump shot,
right,
but he is another guy who's constantly improving. And I love the fact that he's fearless. You know what I'm
yeah.
saying? No, he doesn't care who's in front of him. He's gonna put his head down. He's gonna attack. He's gonna be aggressive. I
But is that
mean,
a
let's
fair
say
is that a fair trade package though for Donovan Mitchell?
like I said, I say
If you're
maybe,
Utah,
if I mean if you're Utah, you probably won't. Like I said, maybe R.J. Barrett, maybe Emmanuel quickly, um,
Julius Randle.
Mitchell Robinson, and a couple picks. They probably want to keep Julius Randle. I would assume they
Yeah.
want to keep Julius Randle, and so in Hines. So then after that, in New York, you have Donovan Mitchell. You pair him with Julius Randle. Um, they Jalen Brunson, obviously, who they signed. They still got Derrick Rose there, who can be, a real steady guy off the bench. As he has been coming off and giving them a spark off the bench. Um, I mean, they still got it's leaving my mind right now, but they still got a few shooters. They still have a few pieces there, and maybe they can try to, run it back and get back into that playoff hunt there in the East. And then let's say Miami. Maybe obviously any deal in Miami, they're gonna want Tyler
Tyler
Hero.
Hero. Yeah.
Yeah. So I
Which
mean,
that actually might be the most ideal situation for Tyler Hero. Because I
yeah,
can't
Tyler Hero has been public about wanting to be a starter. He
yeah.
wants to be a starter next year. I don't know if that's going to happen in Miami, but he's been pretty public about how he feels about his game and that he feels that he should be a starter.
Wouldn't you love him in Utah?
I know, but I mean that might help him fit in Utah. Who knows? You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
So I mean, I don't know. Miami, maybe they Tyler Hero, maybe they throw in uh, maybe they throw in Kyle Lowry. Kyle Lowry's getting
No,
up
I don't
there.
think that. I
He
don't think
was,
they will. I think
but
Kyle Lowry is very big to what Miami is doing, from an organizational standpoint and from a
But Kyle
culture.
Lowry he really battled injuries last year.
Mhm.
Um, and then they ended up and Gabe Vincent and Max Struss, they ended up putting some of those guys in and giving those guys minutes, and they really, paid off for them. It's even in the playoffs. Like they had some really big games for Miami in the playoffs. So maybe they figure, maybe they can, or I mean, Miami has some guys. I know they just re-signed them, but they could throw Victor Oladipo in the deal.
Yeah,
they did. They did just re-sign Victor Oladipo, but Tyler Hero, Victor Oladipo, throw in, I don't know, Max Strus or Gabe Vincent, throw in one of those guys and a draft pick, and boom, now you got Donovan Mitchell. You pairing them with Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo and whoever else you keep there. If you keep Struss or if you keep Vincent or if you keep whoever else you keep there,
if
they're right back at it.
If they're able to finesse and keep that core, keep those core players, obviously of a Jimmy Butler and a Bam Adebayo and you add
and then you throw in Donovan Mitchell,
who's the scoring presence that you've long needed. Mm-hmm. I mean,
now they're a dangerous team, and I really feel like Donovan Mitchell is the type of player who would really buy into the type of culture that they have in Miami too. I think he'd be a really nice fit there too.
Yeah, no, I think one thing I never got from Donovan Mitchell is he never gave me he never came across as like a prima donna or a guy that was flashy. He came across as a guy that wanted to work.
Oh yeah.
He wants to work. You can just tell he really is committed to getting better. And how is Donovan Mitchell now? He's not old. He's what, 25? Could be younger.
I think he might be a little older than 25 because if I'm not mistaken, he was at Louisville for a couple years.
So he was an older rookie.
Yeah, I believe. But yeah, I mean, I don't think anyone seen him really being this good either. You know what I'm saying? No. I remember watching him at Louisville and I thought, okay, he's a nice kid. You could see the athleticism was there. It's like, okay, he's a nice kid, but
you didn't think he was going to be this?
When he got to Utah, I didn't see him being this good. Yeah, he's 25.
Yeah, he's 25 exactly.
Yeah, I didn't see him being this good. I even throw another crazy trade idea out there for him, and crazy enough, I'll get to that later. But maybe somehow you put some sort of package together if you're Utah and you send him to the Lakers for Russell Westbrook. You let either you buy Russell Westbrook out or you let Russell Westbrook play this last year on his contract and let him walk. And then you just start over fresh and rebuild fresh. Maybe you rebuild.
I feel like
you tank this year and go for the next year's draft because next year's draft got a few guys who could possibly be some studs.
I feel like if I'm Utah and I can get some type of commodity, some type of young player to build, even if they're not a star player or they don't have the potential to be a star. I have to get somebody that can be like a component of the next foundation that I'm building. And that's why, like, even the first two teams you said, the Knicks and Miami are so enticing, because if you can get an RJ Barrett or a Tyler Hero, who are both two ascending players, still very young, like, I mean, we don't know what either of those guys could be. I think we know what Tyler Hero is a little bit more. He could come there and be your immediate, I mean, I hate to say it, depending on what you're devoid of, he could possibly go there and be your number one or number two guy right away. You just don't know that.
Tyler Hero.
Tyler Hero.
Yeah. I think if Utah was to make that trade, I think Tyler Hero is a piece that they try to build around and really see,
what he has. They gonna give him the green light, and for him, wouldn't that be the perfect situation for him? It's something that you wanted this heat. Not only are you a starter, but you're the man.
Yeah. I don't think he's that guy.
No. I don't know. And even if he's not, he's going to get every opportunity. He would get every opportunity to prove that there.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, so I don't know. I guess I would need some type of commodity. I wouldn't. You bringing in Russell Westbrook. I mean, what is Russell Westbrook going to do for you? I mean, he may be a stopgap and he's going to give you some productive years, but I don't know.
That's why I say you make that deal. You buy him out immediately, so he doesn't even play for you this year. Or if you decide he only has 1 year left, which is the year he just opted in for, he only has this 1 year left at the $47 million. or you play them out this year and you let them go for it, and you go for the lottery. You know what I'm saying? You basically kind of tank, and you know what I'm saying, you going for the lottery next year. Because like I said, there's some guys in next year's draft who, you know, a lot of NBA analysts are really high on. You know what I'm saying? There's a kid over in France, Victor Wembanyama, who is pretty much the consensus #1 pick in next year's draft already.
France.
Yeah, he's from France. There was I don't know if you've seen anything on him. There was a tape that went viral. There was this video that went viral when he was 16. He was playing. They were playing 2-on-2, and he was playing against Rudy Gobert, and he was giving Rudy Gobert that work. This kid is 7. He's 7. He's 7'3", but he's like a 7'3" small forward. Like he's really slight of foot. He has a wonderful handle, a great shot, and he's still young. I think he's only 17 or 18 now. He's still really young.
And he's playing pros over there.
He's playing pro overseas. But yeah, in this video, he was 16 and he was giving Rudy Gobert fits. Straight up.
Yeah, so that put the and I'm sure at that time, you know, what Rudy Gobert was just coming off of what Defensive Player of the Year?
Yeah, he literally was. He was literally Defensive Player of the Year, Rudy Gobert. Go look them up. Go look them up on YouTube. Victor Wembanyama. Defensive Player of the Year, Rudy Gobert. And he was giving Rudy, they were playing 2-on-2. Rudy Gobert was guarding him. And on multiple consecutive plays, he was giving Rudy Gobert buckets, however he wanted it, okay? He was draining the J in his grill. He was setting them up step backs. You know what I'm saying? He was taking them to the bucket. However Rudy wanted it, he was giving it to him.
Well, I tell you one thing, man. These guys better be careful. These European guys and these overseas guys, man, because they taking over the NBA.
They are, man, and I mean, like I've said numerous times, you know, they play kind of positionless over there. They train their kids or their basketball players kind of positionless, and they really focus on fundamentals. Whereas over here, you know, we rely so much on athleticism, on so much of us becoming bigger and stronger and faster. Whereas over there, they're getting right to the basics. And over there, even if you're, you know, a big, even if you're a power forward or a center, if you're 6'10", 7 foot or whatever, they're not just throwing you on the block. They're putting the ball in your hands and they're making you go through drills and they're making you an all-around kind of basketball player. Whereas over here in America, we're starting to get there now, but we're a little late to that process. Over there at a young age, if you're a 6'3", 6'4", 8th grader, you know, over here, they probably going to have you on the block. They're going to put your back to the basket. You're going to be a big. Over there, they putting the ball in your hands. You running dribbling drills. You dribbling through cones. You Euroing, whatever. They're trying to get your total game together.
Which is why you're having these bigs come in. I mean, we don't want to talk too much about Joker, but, you know, you're having these bigs come to America from overseas with pretty well-rounded games. Even if they're not superstars and they're not extremely highly impactful players, there's so many different ways you can use them because they have such a well-rounded, versatile game, fine-tuned.
Consider this, bro. If you put a gun to my head right now, if I was to name my top 5 players, probably 4 of them aren't American-born.
I mean, this is Giannis's time.
Giannis isn't American-born. Luka isn't American-born. The Joker isn't American-born. Joel Embiid isn't American-born. And I mean, whoever you want to put at 5th, if you still view LeBron or KD or Steph Curry, whomever you want to put in that 5th spot.
Yeah.
But for, you know, the premier guys in our league, they're from overseas.
Overseas, yeah.
You know, so hey man, America better take note, man. All these AAU coaches and all these high school coaches. I mean, let's get back to the fundamentals, man. Let's start teaching the fundamentals, you know. And it's awesome to be athletic. It's great to be an athletic freak. You want to be stronger and faster and quicker and jump higher. You know, all of those things are great. But if we're not getting back to the basics, and then also if we're not teaching these kids basketball, they're gonna get to the NBA where everybody's athletically gifted, and then it's okay. What do you know about the game?
Game,
Can you
yeah.
play the game? Can you fill your role? Can you pass? Do you have a high basketball IQ? Can you run the pick and roll? Can you defend the pick and roll? Can you see a play before it develops? You
Yeah.
notice tendencies.
No, I agree. I agree 100%. And that's how you're able to see some of these guys come in and these European players and just make their way. Now, obviously, we can talk about a Giannis who may not be the most skilled player ever, but his size and athleticism and his will to win is just what puts him over the top.
And his work ethic.
His work ethic is
He's one of the hardest working, hardest playing NBA superstars we've ever seen. He's going to give you 110%.
He might be the only player I think that I could really put in that I could say he thinks like Kobe, he thinks like Mike, where it's basketball over everything else.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and this is not a dig. Obviously, I know sometimes we talk trash about LeBron. This isn't a dig on LeBron because I think LeBron's appeal is that he's obviously phenomenal on the court, but he has such a big off-court presence as far as going to social events, going to concerts, being on TV, and all this stuff. Like
social media.
Exactly. He's so much. And I think I can say this. He's so much more relatable, I think, than the other NBA superstars that we've had. LeBron is. But one thing about Giannis, and I think I just really started realizing it these last 2 years, he really doesn't care about anything else. He doesn't care about being liked. He doesn't care about going on vacation and going to all these crazy places. Literally, all Giannis cares about is his family and basketball. Nothing more, nothing less. I said and that's why he'll dominate this NBA for another 5 to 10 years because he is truly addicted to the game. And I guess I could say he's more like Kobe. At least Jordan had somewhat of a social life. Kobe didn't have a fucking social life like that. I mean, Kobe was basketball and everything else. Look, basketball, family.
He was in the gym. Mm-hmm.
He was in the gym, exactly. So that's what Giannis is. So and I keep saying I'm gonna watch it, but I know on Disney Plus there's a movie.
I seen it. He got a little half documentary or whatnot on Disney Plus. I'm gonna check it out too, man. I'm glad you brought that up. I'm gonna check it out myself.
Yeah, so I started to watch it, but I said, I didn't just get the chance to, but yeah. So big shout out to him and big shout out to the European players. But just going back to the original topic, we're gonna have to see what happens in I guess within the coming weeks with Donovan Mitchell. If they can if Utah can get a good trade package for him, sucks because once again he's an ascending young player in his own right. But hopefully they can get something that they can actually use moving forward.
Or everybody could be blowing smoke and we look up and he'll still be there.
Which is what I thought, which is still very a possibility that I would love to see him stay. Because I got tired of seeing him and Rudy Gobert go back and forth like school kids. It got annoying. But yeah, but that's episode 20, my man, in the books.
In the book, once again, we thank everybody that did view, and we thank everyone that is going to view in the future. We got the Rooted in Sports community every Saturday. 12 o'clock Pacific, 2 p.m. Central,
3 Eastern.
3 Eastern on Twitter Spaces. Obviously, my boy got the Break Room Breakdown. He just dropped an episode.
Just dropped the episode last week from athlete to entrepreneur with one of my mentors, Cassandra Britton. Really good episode. So go and check that out. We're on all platforms, Apple, Google, Spotify. And then you can just hit me up, Tiberius519 on Instagram. I got the link up there for you guys, and tune in. Really, really good. Or you can just Google it on just Google the Break Room Breakdown, pull it up and Google it. I'll be the first thing that popped up. And that actually came and helped me out on a few dates. So I threw that out there. I said Break Room Breakdown.
You little slide devil, you.
I said, she said, I ain't gonna lie.
Word.
I'm not gonna go off on a tangent. I'm talking trash. But anyways, so yeah, check that out. And then obviously he spoke about Twitter Spaces, man. It gets active.
It does. It does.
Guys,
it does.
it gets heated. So
for real. So y'all tune in and guys, that's you guys' opportunity to chime in and be heard with a bunch of guys from all over this nation, man, and just give your take on various topics, man. It's really fun. Like he said, we be debating. It gets heated in there, so it's fun though. It's all love. It's all fun though, man.
Yeah.
So definitely tune in on that. And then obviously next Monday, same bat time, same bat channel. We'll be right back here with another episode of the Rooted in Sports podcast.
Let's get it, man. And I'm sure, and it will be we'll be into training camp. Training camp would have started. So
Yep.
I want to say that the next division we'll do. I guess you want to do NFCs? What you want to do? You want to do NFCs or you want to do another AFC? I'll let you choose.
It don't matter. We can. I know you want to get to your Cowboys. You know.
Actually, so, I'm actually in no rush, but you know it doesn't matter to me. This is going to be a fun offseason.
We'll figure it out. Y'all just make sure y'all tune in next week, guys.
All right.
Much love. God bless. Till next time.